Alright guys, now let's discuss about the Age of Exploration timeline. Now these are the series of events that happened. These are actually the most important events that happened. There were literally many events that happened from 1400s to 1600s during the span of Age of Exploration. But these are the most remarkable events. Okay, I really apologize if I've missed some clearly important events, but these events that is listed here is considered as the most important events in world history as well as age of exploration. So let's start. Okay, so let's start. Now in the beginning, it started with a guy called as Prince Henry. Okay, so who is this Prince Henry? Prince Henry is also known as the navigator. Why navigator? So he was a Portuguese prince and he sponsored the voyages to explore and build new colonies in North Atlantic and West Africa. So basically this guy, he never traveled to any part of the world. Matlab, he never actually volunteered or ventured out to the voyages himself. He never did. So why he is called as a navigator? He earned this title as a navigator because he assembled a learned group of engineers, designers, and even maritime experts to design new ships, maps, navigational instruments. So, for example, as I mentioned earlier in my previous lecture, there was a ship called as the caravel ship. Now, this caravel ship is considered to be a very fast, maneuverable ship. Now, he was instrumental for building this particular ship. So Prince Henry helped the sailors by training them, by sponsoring them, by giving them navigational instruments and many such things. Now, despite the fact that he never ventured into the sea himself, he is called as the navigator. That's one important thing. Now, why he was so interested in Africa and India? So there was a guy called as Mansa Musa. Okay, remember this guy, Mansa Musa? So he is considered to be the richest guy in the entire human history, Mansa Musa. So his estimated net worth was somewhere around $350 billion to $400 billion. If you take into inflation, that is okay, $400 billion, something somewhere around $400 billion. Now that's a huge amount. For instance, Elon Musk, who is considered as the richest man alive on this particular planet, his net worth is around $250 billion. So Mansa Musa is clearly way richer than Elon Musk. So this guy, Mansa Musa, went to a place called as Egypt. When he went to this place called as Egypt, okay, let me just tell you one thing. Mansa Musa was from a place called as Mali. Okay, Mali right now is a very poverty-stricken place, but back then in 1320s, 1350s, it was a wonderful place, wonderfully rich place. So when Mansa Musa went to Egypt, okay, he spent so much, he distributed gold so much in Egypt that there was a huge inflation in Egypt. So that rich he was. His worth was around 400 billion. And Portugal, Spain, and many of the European countries not only wanted to find an access to him but also to India. So Prince Henry the Navigator wanted access to this guy called as Mansa Musa. So that is why he knew that once he had a trade relationship with the Kingdom of Mali, there will be a chance that Portugal will also grow. So that was one of the reasons. Now, that is why the Prince Henry, starting from 1400s, sponsors started sponsoring by giving money and gold and navigational instruments for the sailors. Remember this, he himself never went out. Now, in 1446, the Portuguese reaches Cape Verde, that is actually somewhere near to Mali. Okay, so actually they were successful, but only in 1446 they reach Cape Verde. Now, after Prince Henry, now let's have a look at the second guy, that is Bartholomew Diaz. Okay, so the Portugal king assigned a mission to this guy, that is Bartholomew Diaz, that he has to find a sea route directly to India from Portugal. That was his mission. So the thing is that Bartholomew Diaz was the first European explorer to sail around the southern tip of Africa. Okay, so this is known as the Cape of Good Hope. So this is known as the Cape of Good Hope, but but his mission was that he has to reach India at any cost. Now, at the tip of Africa, which is known as the Cape of Good Hope, he encountered a lot of storms, okay, bad weather, bad storms. So he actually named it as Cape of Storms, okay, Cape of Storms, because of the storm that they had encountered when they first sailed past it. However, the King of Portugal changed the name from Cape of Storms to Cape of Good Hope because he actually believed that its discovery would eventually lead a route to India through seas. And he was actually right. Okay. Now, after Bartholomew Diaz, there came a guy called as Christopher Columbus. In 1492, Christopher Columbus landed on an island of the Bahamas, which is America. North America or America. Let's go with America. So he was the first European to do so. His initial goal was actually to find a quicker route to Asia from Europe. Now coming to the crown achievement, okay? Now this is something we were waiting for. In 1497, Vasco da Gama discovers India. So Vasco da Gama was a highly successful Portuguese sailor and explorer during the age of exploration. He was actually the first person to sail directly from Europe to India around the Cape of Good Hope. Now remember this, we have already discussed Bartholomew Diaz had actually sailed around Cape of Good Hope, but he failed to reach India. Cape of Good Hope was named as Cape of Storms by Bartholomew Diaz, but it was changed to Cape of Good Hope, okay, by Portugal King. So this discovery was monumental, okay, this discovery was monumental in the history of navigation, as well as because this particular discovery helped the European powers to transfers to India through seas. Okay, so transversing through seas was cheaper because this is something I have mentioned earlier. In the western part of the Western Asia was occupied by the Ottoman Empire. So it was not possible for these guys to reach to India through the Ottoman Empire. So that is why this was a monumental event in the history of navigation, actually in the history, in the whole modern history. Now, after Vasco da Gama, there was a guy called as John Cabot. So he was an Italian navigator and explorer. In 1497, he discovered Newfoundland, which is Canada. Okay, so this is actually the route that John Cabot took to reach Canada. Okay, so moving on to a person called as Balboa. So Balboa was a Spanish explorer. He was a governor and he was also a conqueror. He is best known for having crossed the Isthmus of Panama. Okay, so this place is known as the Isthmus of Panama. And the achievement was he actually went to the Pacific Ocean in 1513. Okay, so this was an actual achievement because it is for the first time the Europeans were actually entering into the Pacific Ocean. So this was a huge achievement. Okay, so the Europeans have now reached the Pacific Ocean. Now let's finally discuss the most important person, that is Magellan. Okay, so what is so important about this guy, Magellan? So Magellan led the first expedition to sail all around the world. Okay, so by far we have some people who reached parts of Asia, parts of Africa. Now Magellan was the first person to actually roam around the whole globe, whole earth. So that is why he is considered very important in the history of navigation. So this is somehow the date. Okay, it actually took him around 3 years to actually circumnavigate the whole globe. Okay, 3 years. Okay, 3 freaking years it took him. So in August 10, 1519, Magellan set sail from Spain. Okay, so that's where he started from. Then in October 21, 1520, he discovers the Strait of Magellan. Okay, so this is the Strait of Magellan. He went through it. In April 27, 1521, Magellan actually get killed by the islanders. Okay, so these were the Filipino islanders. Okay, so these were the Filipino islanders and they killed Magellan. And in September 6, 1522, single ships. Okay, actually Magellan started with 5 ships. Now single ship returns with 18 survivors. Magellan himself was killed, but they successfully managed to circumnavigate the whole globe. So this is the whole story of the age of exploration.